love again, but it's the only way.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. It's Friday night, which means it's the three Amigos, and I'm joined by Steve Hasty and Mitch. How are you, lads?
All right, Steve, how are you?
Yeah, great to see you, lads, and should be plenty of stuff to talk about tonight. Let's talk first of all about Eddie Howe's press conference. And Eddie Howe's press conference today, obviously there was a frustration there that he hadn't brought any players in, Steve. And from my perspective, I've got to be honest, after doing the show with Super Matt and Gibbo last night, I was fairly frustrated as well. I think there's almost been like a seeping of negativity finally got into me about the situation that we'll find ourselves in, and not through any doing of the new owners, but we know it's 14 years of negligence by the previous owner, but it's just so frustrating, Steve, and it's been a frustrating week this week. And I think Eddie Howe's main phrase about transfer targets was, a lot of it comes from the media. And he'd say about 50% of it is true and 50% of it isn't. And he says, I've just learned to ignore it. I've got to ignore it. So what's your thoughts, Steve, on what he had to say?
Well, I think it's been a stressful week actually for everybody, because that's the nature of being a Newcastle supporter now, with all the speculation that's been going on through the press. In terms of the 50%, I mean, there's nothing to stop the club coming out and dismissing the other 50% if they want. They've got plenty of friends in the press who can help them to do that, but it just seems to be, as usual, Newcastle United are in a situation where we have some press who are onside, some press who are offside, and some press who have no idea which side they're on because they're not hearing anything. I put a little thing up on Twitter yesterday of 4 different stories to do with Carlos that came from 4 different directions of that deal, that were coming from 4 different reporters, all of whom were respectful and respected reporters on the Newcastle United scene. They weren't coming from, some unknown name from the Sun or something like that. These were local lads, local journalists who were reporting. I'm frustrated. I'm getting stressed about it. My stress levels are coming from the fact that, unlike others, I'm not sitting there going, you know what, well, if we go down, it doesn't really matter, we'll come straight back up, etc., etc. Because I'm very much in the camp that, you know what, we've got to save this season. The players have got to get a grip. The manager's got to get a grip. The club has got to get a grip of itself, and the supporters, and we've got to get ourselves out of this malaise that seems to have occurred, where we can't see a game through. And it is, there's schisms appear in all left, right, and centre within all sides of social media, and that's what I'm finding very, very stressful, Steve. I don't know about the rest of you. I'm sure Mitch might be feeling similar in the Middle East, but I don't know whether it's something, Mitch, that's coming over that way.
Look, I mean, it hasn't been a particularly good week. We've had another death in our, NUFC Matters community and the Newcastle United fan base with Chris. We're still all reeling from the loss of Dave Harrison. COVID, really, the pandemic, etc., I think is getting to everybody in different ways. We're all trying to encourage each other to keep our spirits up, etc. And life is getting in the way as well, not just Newcastle United, Mitch. But the Newcastle thing doesn't help in essence that it's supposed to be something that we enjoy. It's supposed to be a hobby. It's supposed to be something where we all get some kind of release from it, and all the endorphins we're getting from Newcastle United, I'm afraid at the minute, are all very depressing.
I think the frustrating thing for me is that we've had pretty much a fair handle on a lot of what's been going on, I think, with the information that we get. And things seem to have ground to a bit of a halt this week. And I think that's the frustrating thing, is that we're seeing little movement. And I think that's the nature of this window. This window is very difficult to buy in. We all knew that. We've got this dilemma whereby I think clubs are seeing us as an open checkbook. And so they're going to dig in for that extra amount. And how we handle that, I think, will set a precedent for windows going forward as well. So, if you think if we were to take just pay the money attitude this window, do we then get a 10% premium in the next window and a 10% premium in the window after that? And so it's a balance. It's a really difficult game. We know they are active. We know they are active in many, many, many fronts. but there's being active and then there's seeing movement. And I think that's why on Wednesday when we were talking, my attitude now is for some of these deals is to actually take deals off the table. Say, right, we're going to look at other targets. You know where we are on January the 31st. I think the last 2 days of the window will be busy. We'll be very busy. It's frustrating not to have somebody in for Leeds as well. I think would have been a nice boost for everybody to have another body through the door by tomorrow. It was clear yesterday that wasn't going to happen. And so we've got to roll with what we've got. I think Eddie Howe handled the press conference quite well today. Once again, he's being asked certain questions that he should be nowhere near, and he has to deflect. And I think, I can understand why it's getting to some people. It's frustrating for me. But at the same time, I think the learning curve that the new owners are seeing about doing deals in a January window, they're on the steepest part of it at the moment, I think.
Yeah, it's a learning curve for everybody, and one which I hope will be a something that learn for the future windows as well. Those people who mess them around, hopefully that they won't be doing business with them in the future. And when players want to come to Newcastle, which undoubtedly they will at some point, when things turn, when the worm turns, if you like, Steve, there will certainly be a few people who will want to come, who Newcastle might be able to say, well, you had your chance.
Yeah, I mean, there's undoubtedly players out there that want to come to Newcastle United. There's no question about that. The question is, obviously, do those players fit into the model that we've got on the pitch? How will they fit in? And this Eddie Howe seems to be making a lot of substance on whether or not they're the right caliber, as in mentally, whether they fit into the dressing room structure that he wants. Not necessarily the dressing room structure that he's got at the moment, but the dressing room structure that he wants. Now, I suppose the question is, how long can you wait until Eddie Howe finds those particular players? Does the background checks on them all to try and establish whether or not they're the right people? It's a fine dividing line that he's playing. It's whether or not he wants to bring bodies in because he wants to rescue the season, whether those players are the right people to bring in at the moment, or whether they fit into his more longer-term model, and whether he does have a longer-term model. I suppose they're all pointers that other people within the club are going to start to question. Certainly, we're seeing fans already questioning those type of situations and scenarios. But I mean, you look at the names that have been bandied around. I think there was a list on .com of about 30 or 40 players that have been linked with the club. Some of whom I've never seen linked. Other ones that you're thinking that's way out of where we are at the moment. And players also that you think, are they the type of players that we want? I suppose that gives you an idea of what Eddie Howe and the backroom team that he's got and the people who are involved in the transfer activity going through are getting hammered with. Agents ringing them up, agents offering them players. They're then trying to deflect all of that while concentrating on whoever the main targets are. You've also got the situation of the pressure of, we seem to have a fan base that, and rightly so, that are looking at various positions and decide where they think that need to be filled, whether or not Eddie Howe thinks that those are the positions that need to be filled. It's a maelstrom, isn't it? It's a job that for some would revel in, and for others would just immediately sort of back off from. And it's I suppose with when you listen to his press conference, there was certainly a frustration in his voice, and the frustration wasn't coming from the same old questions week in, week out about the owners and this type of thing. The frustration was, you could hear in the questions about, well, why haven't you signed anyone? Why haven't you signed anyone? And I got the impression that there's a lot going on behind the scenes, but from what I'm picking up, he could well be the one who is, well, I want to say these have got to fit in. I want to check these people out. When some name gets given, I'm going to check this guy out. I want to make sure. Normally, that would have all been done by Steve Nixon and his backroom team, and it would have been a case of, Bruce, well, this is who you're getting. Eddie Howe's a totally different kettle of fish. He's a totally different style of manager. I think he probably, don't think the word's not pedantic, but he certainly wants to stamp his own authority. And I'm sure that if there's names get put in front of him, and the players that he feels as though don't fit in or he doesn't want, he'll be the first one to tell them.
Look, it's also further complicated by our league position. That's going to put some players off. It's going to put some agents off. It's wanting to send the clients. There's no doubt about that. I think that's something that I'm not convinced the club have fully thought through personally. There's also, and I think it was Luke Edwards of all people made the point through the week about how January is so difficult for reporters to pick on stuff because it's just sprinkled with so much bullshit. And there's so much agenda from agents, from clubs, from players' representatives, from this one and that one, and they're putting different little things out. Like Steve says, there was 4 different stories relating to Carlos from 4 different sources. Which one's right? Or is the truth a funny blend of all 4? And picking through all that is a minefield for the press, and therefore mixed messages to the fan base. The fan base are up one minute and down the next because they're getting excited because from one paper there's this news, from another paper there's another story that flattens that but puts something else in the firing. And it is really difficult to pick through what's going on. And we do just seem like we've ground to a little bit of a halt this week, but I suspect it could be just the eye of the storm ahead of the last week of the window.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting run in. I mean, we seem to be getting closer, Steve, to potentially getting something over the line with Jesse Lingard at least, and I think the fact that he's pals with Trippier might stand us in good stead.
Yes, definitely. The Jesse Lingard situation is one that, let's face it, it's been bubbling up since Christmas, hasn't it? And if not before that, I mean, it was a name that was linked to right at the very start of the window, at the start of the season, and it seems to have been the one that's carried on and on. Yes, he's a pal of Trippier. Yes, he's an England international. Yes, he's someone who Trippier knows very well. I think they're obviously from the same neck of the woods, aren't they? In that side of the country. So all in all, it's the sort of thing that can sway certainly a loan deal. You know, you already know somebody within the club. You already know someone who you can buddy up with, I suppose. It's not like he's going in blind. Although, let's face it, I don't know who he knew at West Ham. I haven't checked it out. But it's one of those plus points. You know, players can convince other players to come to clubs. There's no question about that. It used to happen in the past. Whether it still happens now, I'm not too sure. You hear friendships, and you think of French players that knew each other that have moved on. You see German players that might have been involved, let's say at Chelsea, who were being involved at international level that mixed together. You know, you look at Rudiger, you look at Havertz, you look at the striker that they've got as well, and you're saying, well, this is a good blend. This is where it goes, and if players are comfortable off the pitch as well as they are off the pitch. But yeah, I mean, Jesse Lingard would be a great acquisition for us. I've no doubt about that because of the energy that he's got, and he can put the ball in the back of the net, and it's something that, other than San Maximin, we seem to be struggling with.
Yeah, Mitch, I mean, Lingard and Trippier are good friends. I mean, you know, that's the way it works in football. Sometimes he might be saying, well, look, it's all right here, get yourself here, come down and join us. We're hoping that's going to happen. The Carlos thing's been frustrating though, Mitch. I mean, we seem to be getting played, or somebody's playing somebody in that deal.
I don't think we're getting played. I think it's a case of, like we saw with Botman, everybody wants to get the maximum out of the deal when they're talking to Newcastle United. The player seems to be making insinuations that he wants to leave, just like Botman. And it's a selling club's right to dig their heels in for as much as they can get out of a buying club. So that's the way football transfers work at the end of the day. And yes, it's frustrating. What's frustrating is in the world of social media, like so many other things,
a lot more gets played out in public than should. You know, and I guess in some ways we're just as guilty for all of that, because when we're getting past bits and bobs and we're able to talk about some of it, it's like, yeah, it sort of drives that thirst for knowledge on. We're in a position where we want to know everything and we want to know it now, and that's, you know, again, that's just in the era of Sky News and Sky Sports News. That's how it is, and so the way media deals with these things is very, very different now, and so we'd like to get the information, but there's always been games played, and there's always been games played by clubs and agents and players. Some of them are just very, very, very good at using social media, for example, to manipulate that game. And so we have a fan base that have proved how very bloody intelligent they are at using certain things on social media, from the playing spotters to the Instagram posters to the Twitter one-liners and beyond. And so I think our fan base can pick up on subtle things a lot better than many, many others. And so, what's the meaning of this on such and such's Instagram post? And he's got like a blue butterfly and a red heart, and, you know, suddenly there's 10 million different interpretations of that. And so it must be bloody difficult, and it must be hard for everybody involved in football, on the playing side, on the coaching side, on the managerial side, the ownership side, and on the journalism side, to pick through all the bullshit in January. And that's the nature of it, and that's how January windows seem to have become. They seem to have become this. You pay a premium for a player, and you have to dance the dance to get the player into your club. And at the minute, we're having a pause from dancing, I think. But like I say, I think it's just the eye of the storm as the end of the transfer window approaches.
Yep, let's hope so. Plenty of talking points in that. We are half an hour shorter tonight, though, folks, because I've got an evening at the Irish Club with Peter McAleese, of course, the former SAS and paratrooper guy who was given the job of killing Pablo Escobar. So should be an interesting night at the Irish Centre tonight. As always, though, you know, we have
just the easy jobs then.
Just an easy job, yeah. It's quite easy. I'm going to actually enjoy the show tonight, but yeah, it should be an interesting one. I've got to say, first of all, that our latest T-shirt for the food bank, the one that was donated by Terry Neeshaw, where you can find his work, terryneeshaw.com. He donated a wonderful T-shirt and a print. It was a one-off, and Ian G, that's Ian G 4x4 or 4x4 on Twitter. He is the winning bid. £150 going to the food bank. So well done, Ian. Thank you very much for your wonderful donation to the food bank. And if you can get in touch with Steve and the food bank to arrange payment, that will be fantastic. Big thank you to Terry Neeshaw as well for donating it. And thanks to John from QTech, as always, for facilitating that wonderful gesture. So great stuff. Okay, we've got quite a lot to get through, as always. And here it is with that lovely music. Put your fingers in your ears. It's The Day I Met. So Jeff has sent some new music, but still been unable to obtain it. Jeff, we might be able to use that, but Neil is working on it. Neil's been busy working on a few other things for us, which is the reason it hasn't been sorted. So we might have to put up with that for a couple of weeks. I'm not
putting up with it. I think it's fantastic, mate.
I don't mind it, actually. Andy Kane sent us this roughly 24 years ago. Alan Shearer came to visit us at school.
Wow.
And there we go.
Brilliant.
There's Big Al on a school visit, so fantastic. First time we've had one of them. I think most of them are at training grounds or whatever, so there's a school photograph. This one was from David Shepherd. Great bloke, sat at a chat and a drink also. Great crack, great memory. That's Lejeune, I believe, in a baseball cap.
Playing very well at the moment as well.
Yeah, this one's from Jaffa. My daughter met Pavel.
I wonder if she can remember.
I'm not very happy about it, to be honest. But there we go. And this one was from Rachel, if I remember rightly, and that's just Stanley Matthews, one of our regulars.
Yes, brilliant.
Rachel
Wow.
Lilly sent us that, I think. So there she is, and there's Sir Stanley Matthews.
That's brilliant.
Bloody hell.
Not Newcastle related, she says, but there we go. This one was from Jeff, I think it is. Could you use this picture on your feature the day I met on the Three Amigos show? It was at one of your shows too. Keep up the great work. So there he is with Peter.
Peter.
And there's Jeff with John Anderson.
Brilliant. A pint of Guinness as well. Good
Pint
old
of
John.
Guinness, it's probably in the Irish club, I would imagine. But keep them coming in. Send them to me at Steve Wraith on Twitter. Send them to us on Facebook. That's the way to do it. And we will feature them on the day I met them. Okay, the food bank T-shirts are something where we've raised, I think, something in the region in total of everything we've done. It must be over the £16,000 mark because I mean, the last T-shirt that we had, last week's T-shirt went for about £1,000, didn't it? The Nick DeMarco one. So I mean, we're heading towards 20 grand on events. This T-shirt is a rather special one because John from QTech and Dave Havery in particular have obviously been speaking to Chris A's family. Who are obviously over here now. Dave Havery's been doing some sterling work, deserves a huge mention. He's been a massive help to the family in their great time of need. He's been keeping all of us up to date as well. And a special shout out to Al Walid as well, who I know this has really hit him hard. Al Walid, as you know, who's been very vociferous on our show and other platforms, and obviously a great link for us in Saudi as well. And I know, if you're watching Al Walid, we are thinking of you, and give us a shout if you need to. But yeah, this is a T-shirt which Chris's family have endorsed to go for the food bank, Steve. And ultimately, the quote which is at the bottom is off Chris's Instagram. That's what the text is. Do not follow where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail. And some wonderful photographs there, of course, Chris in the middle. So I will stick that on Twitter now. And if you would like to place a bid for it over the next 7 days, please do. All proceeds, as usual, go to the food bank. And we will obviously be in touch next Friday and let you know how that T-shirt went. But fantastic gesture, and our thoughts, as always, to Chris's family in this horrendous time. Whilst I'm talking about the food bank, we have also announced our summer do. Now, I know a lot of you enjoyed the Christmas do. It was all great to get together, and Chris here was actually there. It was great to see him. Catch up with him, in the flesh. I'd seen him at the protest in London, and of course he came up for the Christmas do, and then he was here for the Brentford match. So we got a hat trick of meetings in a short space of time. But the get together in the summer would be nice. Something a little bit different. We've got an event with a Morrissey tribute act on at the Irish Centre. And this is in aid of the food bank. It's the summer party. The tickets are now available on newcastlelegends.com. The tickets are £15. So get yourself onto the website, buy your tickets for that. Doors are at 7 o'clock. That's the entertainment. We'll have raffles. We'll have an auction as well. And all the usual banter with the NUFC Matters crew. So tickets are on sale Friday, June the 17th this year. So that is our summer do announced. Get yourself along if you can make it. It would be good to see as many of you there as possible. Okay, Steve, did you want to say something?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that that anything that we get from that auction of that T-shirt will be handed over to the food bank, West End Food Bank, in Chris's name. That he was a great supporter of ours. He spent a little bit of time on when he was up here for the Brentford game, chatting to us and meeting everybody from the food bank on Strawberry Place. And I think it's only right that anything that does get donated will be passed over in his name as a little tribute, because that's what he was like, you know. So he was very supportive of it, and I think that from my perspective, and from the other's perspective, it would be very nice to actually do that and have that in his name. It's not just an auction. It's not just a bid that somebody's putting in, but we will pass that over in the name of Chris to the trustees at the food bank.
Okay, news breaking at the moment. Tom Dixon's put this in, so let's talk about this, Steve. And that is about this legal battle that Mike Ashley was having with Amanda Staveley and Mirdad. And he's demanding the return of the £10 million loan. Amanda and Mirdad have said that they are very confident of successfully defending the claim in full. It will not distract them from their hard work at Newcastle. What's your initial thoughts on that, Steve? Just reading that, it just seems as if Ashley likes to be relevant still in the Newcastle United story, despite him not owning the club.
Absolutely. I mean, my initial thought when I saw it, when it flashed up there, was, all right, so that's what he's going to spend the £10 million on buying Derby County. So he's getting somebody else to hand the money over so he can buy Derby County. That was my immediate thought, because he's one of these people. He did it at Rangers. He's going to be in your head constantly for God knows how long, chipping away. I know nothing about. That's a great phrase, and I know nothing. I know nothing about that loan. I wasn't aware of it. It's obviously something that's been brewing among them, and it's something that's left a nasty taste. God knows what it was for. I have absolutely no idea. But they seem confident that they don't have to pay it, or they can fight it, or perhaps there's something in the terms that says it didn't have to be repaid until a certain period of time. And he's saying, well, now that the takeover has happened, I want it back now. You just don't know with Mike Ashley. Simple as that, Steve. You just never know what's going through his mind.
No, well, thank the Lord we don't. It's about as messy as the inside of his shops. Neil, I mean, you know, it really is just, you know, pathetic, isn't it? There's no other word for it.
Well, I've been batting this around this week with a couple of people to say, right, the only thing I can ever remember that being directly linked, because people were saying, was the court case about taking the Sports Direct signage down? Well, no, that would be at the club. Collectively, it wouldn't just be at Amanda and Mirdad. The only thing I can ever remember there being was there was a charge raised between the two companies when the first bid came in 2018. And that loan was about getting deposits sorted, and so the sale could go through quicker. Now, I suspect what the buying side on this has assumed is that that's all been covered and sorted out with the sale of the club, and is in that sale price agreed when the bid was resurrected and allowed to go through. I suspect Mike Ashley's saying, no, this is a different bid, it's a different sale, and technically I'm still owed that money from them. And I think that's what it's about. Look, he's one of the most litigious individuals going. It doesn't surprise me one little bit that that's gone this way. It was a surprise to me that charge hadn't disappeared, because it was obviously, because with the whole accounts changing the company's house and going into the new ownership, it just sort of seemed to fly off the radar. And like everybody, like I guess, like the buyers, I assumed that was all covered in the new deal and covered in the new price. And Ashley obviously doesn't consider that that's the case. Is he going to use it to buy Derby and have interest? I'm not convinced he has much interest in Derby at the minute, after a conversation I've had today. And Derby's a different kettle of fish altogether. I touched on it last week, and I've learned a bit more this week about what's going on there. I can't see Mike Ashley buying that with the various different things that are hanging over the top of Derby. And that's what's put other buyers off as well. Other buyers were interested only if the Inland Revenue wrote off the tax. Well, that's not going to happen, because it's usually the revenue that puts clubs into bother at the end of the day. They're not going to write a big tax bill off. But why they wanted the tax bill written off was because there were so many other potential charges against the club in terms of cash. That it's our guy who Steve and I have worked with in the past on a number of things, still says to me, we could have bought that for a club in February, Mitch. We could have bought that for £1. And he said to me today, I wouldn't buy it even if I had 50 million quid. It's just a car crash. And so, and he sees only one thing happening, and that's sadly the demise of Derby Football Club.
I want to thank CFC Florida, who has just made a $100 donation towards the memoriam for Chris A. We will make sure that gets passed on. We will add that to whatever the total is of the food bank T-shirt. So thank you very much for that, mate. Please don't send me any more donations for that, though, because it becomes very difficult on the channel. As Steve Hasty will give a certain nod to this about how difficult it was when we did the charity night, where you've got to sit and work it all out. So
Absolutely.
although that's a lovely gesture, and I can keep track of one gesture, please do not send any more money for Chris that way, because ultimately it's very difficult for me to pass it on. But I don't mind doing that one. It's a big amount of money. We'll work it out. We'll work out what the money is.
If anybody wants to do it, Steve, then just DM me on Twitter, and I will give them the account details where they can make a direct payment to the West End Food Bank, or alternatively do it on the West End Food Bank's own website where there's a link, and then just tag on the end or put a little note on your deposit, on your payment, that it's from NUFC Matters dash or Chris A or whatever, just so that it can be identified. And then that way, what the food bank will be able to do is that they'll be able to compartmentalize that and keep an audit check. So they'll be aware, and what they'll then do is they'll contact you back via your email and thank you very much for the donation on Chris's behalf. And that goes for anyone else who wants to make a donation just in general. Number of ways to do it. Go to the food bank's own website, or alternatively get in touch with me. And it's exactly the same with the payments for any of the shirts or anything like that they make. I'll give you the bank account details, and you drop it straight into the West End Food Bank's bank account, and that way it's immediately available for them to use as and when they need to.
Yeah, Chad Leach is making a point here. He's saying a lot of players agreeing contracts before a deal has been accepted. I always thought you couldn't speak to a player or his representatives until a deal is accepted by the club. Yeah, there seems to be a lot of this going on, Chad. I've got to be honest. Quick one for you, lads. Dembele is available for 20 million euros. Is that one you would go for, Steve?
No, I think he's played hardly any games in the last 4 years. I think he hasn't even managed something like 25% of the games that he could have played for Barcelona due to injury, due to falling asleep and missing training. His habit that he has of staying up all night to play on video games that got him into trouble with various managers. As I say, his injury problems. When he's fit, he's a handful. He dragged them through a couple of games earlier in the season, but the guy's a car crash waiting to happen, quite frankly, in my book. So he's not someone that I think we need to go near. He's also a left-sided wide man, if you like. He's the man who has to take the corners. He has to take the free kicks. He plays very much wide. And we've got players already in those positions. Whether they're good enough or not is a different matter. But we've certainly, in terms of our squad and where we are at the moment, I think there's probably more important gaps in the squad to fill than filling a gap that's already been that doesn't exist with a player like Dembele.
Neil Skinner says Amanda's told Mike Ashley that the window cleaning bill was £11 million. Classic. Dembele, Mitch, is that a player that would, set the heart racing for you, or is that just another one of those 50% that Eddie Howe is saying is pie in the sky?
French Michael Owen, move on.
French Michael.
Love it.
Okay,
that's what you're getting with him.
Well, that's all you're getting, yeah, 100%. Okay, we've only got an hour to go, so I do have to cram a few things in. So here's Tweet of the Week. Okay, Tweet of the Week. There's plenty of these to get through. You send them to me, you send them to Steve, you send them to Mitch, and we compile the best ones and we get them out there. And this one was doing the rounds. This was used on Match of the Day, actually. And I've got to be honest, he's got a bit of the Michael Hutchins about him there, hasn't he?
He's got something.
He bloody has, isn't he?
Aye.
Alan Shearer looking like Michael Hutchins. But yeah, thanks God for life. I did see that, and that was on Match of the Day last weekend. This one, I think, was from Zara, Steve.
Yes, you know what? We should turn it into Wednesday glasses ring of the week. I'll stick the one so I can read. Mitch has be lapping himself in a minute. In Scotland, this is called Dunfermline. In Japan, there are clubs where you pay to have someone make you cry. In Scotland, this is called Dunfermline Athletic. Excellent. I've also seen it written for Tottenham Hotspur, Newcastle United, Sunderland, you name it. There's been plenty of those, but absolutely classic. Love those one-liners.
Yeah, office supplies. I did see this picture.
Yeah.
This rules. I made it less political this week. I mean, we had so many. We could have gone through so many again this week of Boris and what he's done and what he hasn't done. But I decided to opt for some more football-related ones. Got this one off Paul Oxley. Says he was working in concert and seen this. We aren't dead and buried just yet. Some Newcastle United. Yeah, I've seen a few of those. Go As You Please, I think, is a place in Newcastle, which we used, I think, when we did the march past the ground. This one was from Ben Jacobs, where a club applies for relegation. Burnley Football Club can confirm that it has made an application to the Premier League for relegation. And Ben Jacobs says, "Wow, I wonder whether the Premier League will accept this." I did chuckle at that. We've had with differences, MG, over the years, but he did come up with this one, Steve.
Eddie Howe is just Steve Bruce with a pellet on. Oh dear me.
Yeah, there's been a lot of unfair criticism of Eddie Howe, I think, and God, give the bloke a chance, man. But you've got to laugh when there's a bit of humour injected into it. Kaz Pandel said this, Steve.
Yeah, Twitter is horrendous when you lose, man. Can't put the phone down, but depressing as ever. Same time, no one right or wrong with their opinions. You just hope that we are in good hands now and try not to make schoolboy or negligent mistakes. Whoa, dear me. A lot filled in there, wasn't there? A lot covered.
Can you guess what day that was sent? Straight after Watford. Straight after Watford.
5:05.
Billy Moore, this was a classic. Billy Moore sent this was on Instagram. Happening, mate. Fancy a wank down by the river tomorrow. So Billy messaged back. I'm guessing autocorrect has kicked in there. He went, yes, my bad. I meant the canal, not the river. That was an absolute classic. That autocorrect is an absolute nightmare. By the way, Craig Hope, Steve, this was brilliant.
Yes, this is obviously the ongoing battle that he has, ongoing war with Alex Bruce, who said, here he goes. This man is nothing but a poisonous rat. Like I've always said, he's gone for every manager other than Rafa, as he knew the fans didn't like it if he did, and it would hurt his pathetic little ego. Because Craig had written, I say I'm still living in rent-free in the head of the Bruce family. As it happens, I really like Eddie Howe. So, 2, do players and supporters. He's bright, genuine, and hardworking. And I think that came from a riposte where he had just asked a simple question, Craig, like a lot of journalists do. Eddie Howe, he's had 10 games. Where do we feel we're at? That's all he asked, and straight away it was Alex Bruce coming in and insinuating that Craig was immediately going to get the chisel out at the back of the head of Eddie Howe. Crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Paddy Power has often come up with a bit of humour. Everton fans will at least be able to reuse their old Martinez banners if things go wrong again. The club's commitment to a green future has to be admired. That was with the fact that Martinez was linked with a potential job at Everton after Benitez was sacked. Here we go then.
Yay. Here's Elliot. I've quit my job at the cat shelter. I had no choice as they reduced me. Oh, that's all. Dear me.
And because Elliot's become such a focal point of my tweet of the week, to be honest, I'm going to get him his own music. I've got to be honest. He's going to get his own little like music. So he's going to have his own little section. So we're working on that. And we'll have that in place by next week. Okay, so that's going to be the big announcement for next week's show. Okay, let's get back to some more tweets if I can find them. Here we go. Yeah, Joseph, thank you for this. Always good to see people sitting at home, pint on the table, watching us lads talk about Newcastle United. So it was just nice to see that. Thanks, mate. In glorious Technicolor on your TV. Chunk Soul brother, I love this as well. He says, it's taken me a while, but I've finally been able to replicate your tribute picture to the late great Pavel Srnicek. Steve, of course, that was the picture that I laid out when Pavel passed away, with the shirt, the gloves and the book. So thank you very much, mate. It meant a lot with you sending me that. And this one was from Odds Bible, Steve.
Yes, you got a guy there on his bended knee. Looks a bit like Boris Johnson, actually.
It
and
does.
The girl there, and he's going, obviously, he's Newcastle offering big contracts to any random Premier League player. You know?
Yeah, I did laugh at that as well. This one was from Zach. If it's NUFC calling, then A, don't sell to them as we want them going down. B, triple the price of the player. And C, say I'm not in. So that's just his take on what is happening with the Premier League's the Premier League clubs at the moment. The winner is Zara. She sends in about 6, so it's no wonder that we end up having Zara winning this section. This was sent by a couple of other people as well. An FPL poker player, when Cuthbert just isn't giving it to you right, was the phrase that we used on FPL poker player. And it's look at the scorers: harder Cuthbert, harder and harder. Unbelievable, lass.
Thank you, Zara.
Yeah, BBC really just don't think about things before they put them out there. That is your tweet of the week for this week. Any of them strike up this week, send them to me, Steve, or Mitch, and we'll have a look through and get the best ones up. Loyalty points, Steve. There is a right kerfuffle going on Twitter about loyalty points. It's still going on in the chat. I've seen it again. Somebody saying about 180 points and this, that, and the other. And this is what we've got, and we're going to have to live with it, because up until recently, people weren't wanting to go to the home games and sell them out, and away games, they were dropping down to general sale. Now, we had Brentford, I think, and West Ham both starting at about 180. Leeds started at about 180. Is there a fairer system, Steve?
Well, I suppose the West Ham's a strange one, because obviously it's a huge ground. Holds 60,000, but West Ham are filling it. Brentford, small ground, but the exactly the same sort of level of loyalty points for the away fans. The Brentford one, we're paying the price for a club with a small ground, and I think Leeds is another example where there's changes going on, and the tickets loyalty level for us for away games again was low, and then I think it ended up with people getting obscure views and all sorts. But it's been an ongoing thing that raised its head for every fans forum virtually that I attended. Since they started in 2011, 2012. 2011, I think, was the first fans forum I went to when the club reintroduced it. And it was still going on at 2019 when we held the very last fans forum before the lockdown. There's been umpteen ideas put forward. Those ideas have immediately been hooked on and latched onto by people who have plenty of loyalty points, quite rightly, because they feel as though that their loyalty is then going to be no longer accepted. There are other people who feel as though the loyalty points should only last a certain period of time, and then you shouldn't be able to just build and build and build. Whether any of those schemes would make it fairer, I've heard other people suggesting that loyalty points you should get a loyalty point for going to a home game. You should get 2 loyalty points for an away game. The whole thing aggregates up anyway, because most people who go to a home go to away. I suppose the only gripe that I could say that was legitimate were the number of people who within the system, because of the way that you can group the tickets together with your family and friends, etc., where some people just pile in regardless, and they take up the allocation, or they put their bid in every single game, whether they're going to use them or not, and then they start to drip feed them through friends or family or other people who aren't attending, or they sell them or whatever, or they go onto some spares site. it's one of those frustrating things, Steve, because I don't attend away games that often anymore. That you kind of, I'm not saying you lose interest in it, but you certainly don't have the same strength of feeling as perhaps you should do. And it's not until you listen to the various parties who feel aggrieved about one thing or feel aggrieved with the other that you realise there's an issue. But as you say, we're in this because of the success of Newcastle United in terms of having the takeover completed and people suddenly wanting to go to away games. The fact that it's come so soon after lockdown where we haven't been able to go to any games, and then all of a sudden the club gets taken over, there's an interest. I suppose you can only say it's good for the football club that there's the interest in travelling away again. And it's good for the players that there's always a full allocation taken up. But in terms of how fair it is, for me, the jury's still out. I've heard that many different ways and different schemes and different ideas put forward. And I must admit, none of them actually turn to me and say that would be fairer than what we've already got. And it's only this season, as you say, that we've ended up in a situation where you've got loyalty points for games where it's not dropping below 110 and the tickets have gone. You know, they were on general sale at the start of the season, you know, before the takeover, as you well know. But now, I mean, the likes of myself who haven't been on the list for a few years now, you know, I can't go to an away game unless somebody who has a spare. But that's it. That's the way it was. You know, there's nothing I can do about it. And as well, it's like the membership scheme, and it's about how you can get tickets for home games. They're like hen's teeth now, getting a ticket. Although having said that, what we're finding is that for every game you can always pick up one if you're willing to wait until the day, because there are people who suddenly find that they can't make it. That'll not carry on, however, because those tickets are only going to be able because somebody's taken ill. Somebody can't make it because of COVID, because of a positive test, and they've got a spare ticket for their mate who they sit next to, and they tend to get made available. But you know, they are few and far between. But it's been an ongoing thing, Steve, and it's how you resolve it without having dialogue right across the fan base from the people who are heavily involved in it, who have something, you know, they are buying into this because they're the guys who travel away. Without having that input, I think it's going to be very, very difficult for the club to make change. And it's because it's important that if they are going to consider making change, that they hear every side of the argument, not just get a slanted view from one side or another.
Raimondo has made the point. He says 170 points is good. It keeps the people who are only there to get drunk and the football mags get the tickets, Mitch. I mean, there has been a little bit of that amongst our fan base in the last couple of years. I've got to be honest, like younger fans going, and look, we need younger fans, but the behaviour has been a little bit suspect from a certain minority. You're always going to get that, but that's not a reason for that, is it?
That like this argument is not new, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
We Steve and I were having these discussions when I was interim chair of the trust in the early days of the trust. Steve and I were having these discussions when we've attended fans forums meeting back in the day. I was writing articles about it in True Faith before that even again. You know, there's no easy or fair way to do it. I mean, I'll give you a personal example. During all the building work, it's in James's. I got relocated, and by some bizarre admin error, I ended up with 2 tickets in my name. When they moved us back, I ended up with 2 seats, and that was when there was about 12 or 13 who used to go. Me and 2 of the other lads ended up with 2 tickets in our name, and we kept them because they were like gold dust. We let people use them on a week-to-week basis. People would buy them off with. And it gave us extra away tickets to apply for. Yeah. And so I had about 130 odd points on my one ticket, and the other ticket at the end of the season had about 12. Then we moved into Bar 1892 to take just 1 seat, The club merged the two accounts, but chucked away the 180 odd points and left us with the 20. And they wouldn't give us the points back, so I had to build it up again. And you can build it. You can build it up though. There's lots of low-hanging fruit throughout the season. There's lots of games go to 0 points in general sale. And so don't tell you can't tell me personally that you can't build it up, because you can, because I did. As frustrating as it was. And there always was before that, when it was queue up on the day. I remember people queuing overnight. But then, if you wanted to go down on the day, you'd nearly always pick up a ticket from somewhere.
Yeah.
And so it depends on how confident you are to do that or not. And whether you're happy with a plan B of going and watching it in a pub somewhere.
Well, that's it, yeah.
In my experience, and having had these discussions just like Steve over the last 20 years plus, there's no fair way of doing it. There's no easy way of doing it. And of all of them, loyalty points seems to be the one that everybody understands. And that's for me, one of the more important things. Everybody's also got to understand it. It can't be some sort of gargantuan Stephen Hawking-like formula that if X equals Y in the square root of 6, and then it's a Wednesday and divided by pi, suddenly you've got a ticket. Well, if nobody really understands why I've got a ticket and he hasn't, then that's no good either. That's going to cause more arguments. So for me, a loyalty point system is one that at least people understand, whether they feel it's fair or not. And it's. I don't think this is an argument you can ever really resolve. It's not a circle that can be squared. For me, there has to be a way to allocate the tickets. Loyalty points is one that everybody understands, and it's easy. And it's easy for everybody. And it kind of works. And yes, that's frustrating for some people.
Yeah, right. And I've noticed that when it comes to the crunch, that the only bit of the equation that often gets thrown is that those with the loyalty points should only keep them for a certain length of time, and then they should drop off the bottom. You know, so like you can only have like a 3-year window, and that's to allow other people to catch up with their 3-year window. Yeah. And this type, I've heard many different variations on it, and for every one that's come with I think it should be this, I've heard no, you can't do that, and this happened in front of staff at the fans forum, as well as conversations that happened outside of the fans forum members. Because remember, the fans forum had representatives who were looking, you know, representing away ticketing fans, representing fans that lived away, fans that were just members, fans that were season ticket holders in various parts of the ground, fans that were representing fan groups. All of them, when it came to the crunch, every single time you would either get a blank look because people felt, well, it's a loyalty scheme, so it goes to those loyal. But there was also the lower down the echelon, there was this, well, hang on, it's the older people because they have been in the scheme longer who have got more loyalty points, as though that was sort of a negative for them, and they wanted it more a positive at the other end. And it really is a difficult thing to try and tie up, you know.
I think it's
into the mix as well, lads. Is this? I mean, I saw this, and you take everything with a pinch of salt on Twitter. Is this true, or is this just somebody on the wind up? I meant to include this on Tweet of the Week, but you know, if you show your season ticket, you don't get 25% off things in the ground. Is that just a load of rubbish? I
got asked this when that message went up, and I must admit, because of everything that's gone on this week, I haven't been able to follow up on it. But it was something totally new to me. I'd never come across.
I've never heard that ever.
Yeah, it's new. If it is the case, it's news to me as well.
Anybody else out there in the chat? Let us know if you've ever had 25% off by buying your season ticket.
Pick up quickly on something else you said to Steve as well about young'uns getting drunk and causing hassle and things like that. That's just another generational thing in our fan base. it comes in cycles. Again, do you remember, Steve, when again we were, I was interim chair and you were on the trust board, and we were asked to find a coach of lads who'd sprayed beer all over the services, I think at Wigan.
Yeah.
And very quickly I worked out which coach it was and who would run it and what have you. And this seems to come in cycles. I was one of the daft young'uns once. We all were. And the people of the generation above were like, what the fuck are they doing? What's this? Don't understand it. And I feel like I've moved on to that next one, where you look at what the young'uns are doing and you're thinking, what are you doing? Why is that fun? Don't understand. I'm now the grumpy old man. You know, and I see it when I see videos of our Joss and his mates at away games, and it's sort of it's like looking in a mirror, but the mirror's 30 years ago. You know, and I think it is just it's just a generational cyclical thing. And you know, above us it was the lads running around in the butchers' coats, then it was the lads in the kilts, you know, and then it was the Farrar and Pringle mob, and then it was this, and then it was this. It's just generational, and it goes with supporting the away, particularly where away support.
Yeah, fair point.
I remember being at the FSF event in 2010, their AGM, and talking to lads from Cardiff, and their supporters trust was in a battle with one of the fan groups because the fan groups wanted to be moved to a different part of the ground. They wanted to have what they class as a singing section, but they wanted it in a certain part of the ground. And it transpired that the area that they wanted it in was right next to where the away fans went. And when they inquired about why they wanted to be next to the away fans, this group actually turned around legitimately and said, because we want to fight with them. The supporters trust were like, well, go to the club and get your move, but we're kind of back. You want to be there because you want to fight them, you know? This is crazy. It's absolutely mental, you know? This is the sort of thing that, you know, it happens all over clubs, you know? Every club has problems, and every club has issues that need to resolve. But I'm sure that, you know, Manchester United, they probably have a scheme, a ticketing scheme. Liverpool have a ticketing scheme. But no matter what scheme you look at and try to adopt here, you can guarantee it won't fit in for us, because we are not that sort of fan base anyway. You try and force something on them, and you can guarantee they would rebel. Guarantee. Yeah.
Okay, we've got half an hour left. Just want a quick answer on this one, chaps. Ryan Sweeney, he says, do the panel agree if we get relegated, does Eddie Howe deserve another season in the Championship? Steve?
We've had a conversation slightly around this, but not in terms of whether his job's in jeopardy. It was more around the fact that my immediate answer was, I don't want to even contemplate relegation. Because for me, relegation would be a disaster for Newcastle United. I'm not currently in the mindset or in the camp that says if we go down, yes, we'll come straight back up and it's just another year. For me, that is just incomprehensible. My glass always tries to remain half full when it comes to Newcastle United, although managers the likes of Sam Allardyce, who from the minute he got the job, I wanted him sacked, you know, type of thing. But this is a really, really difficult one. It's really, really hard to pin it on the manager at this moment in time, and then try and look ahead and go, well, you could end up getting relegated with 1 point, you know, or goal difference or something like that. Would that be right? We could be 10 points adrift. You know, all of those would probably come into my reckoning if we did get relegated, and see whether I thought Eddie Howe should you know, die on his or fall on his sword. I think there's more concern, and Mitch and I have had this conversation today actually, on where the owners stand. in terms of if we get relegated? Where would PIF stand? What would their feelings be? What about the position of Mirdad and Amanda? What about the Rubens? You know, do they want to be associated with a club that gets relegated? What does it mean? So for me, contemplating relegation in January, as we are now, just doesn't fit in. Doesn't fit into my mindset. It's not something that I'm talking about. I can't envisage it. I cannot bring myself to talk about the fact that we'd get relegated.
Yeah. Okay, Mitch, is that the same for you?
I'll tell you at the end of the season when we've got all when we've got all the information to look at.
Yeah, fair enough.
You know, right now, 10 games on, there are certain things we are obviously doing better. We look and feel better, but the stats would suggest we're actually not really. And so I think we need more data. We need more time to assess where Howe goes. I think 10 games is the right time to start asking certain questions. I think that's very a very reasonable data set to use. But at the same time, we're looking into the crystal ball now. We don't know what's going to happen at the end of the season. And I think when we assess what has happened after Bruce left and Howe came in, we can only do that at the end of the season.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Okay, apologies to those of you tuning in thinking this is the start of the show. We've actually been on an hour. I've got an event tonight and we're only doing an hour and a half, so we've had to cram everything in. But welcome along if you are watching live and still got time to get something into the chat, but we've got a lot to get in the last half hour. A big thank you to George Hayes. He's done it again, lads. He has put in to the bank account £200 for the Chris A t-shirt already. So £200 has gone in to the food bank account, and that is not a bid per se. He's just put it in, and he says that's his donation to the Chris A fund. So already round about £270 in off that t-shirt, which is absolutely fantastic. So thank you once again to everybody out there. Okay, it's time to look ahead to Leeds, and as always, we have Toon Stato to give us the bad news first.
Hello, the Amigos. 1 win in 20 games for Newcastle in the Premier League this season. The only team that has survived in the Premier League years with 1 win in their first 20 games is West Brom in 2004-2005. The other 12 teams have been relegated. The good thing is that Newcastle lost at Ellen Road last season, 5-2. And the last time Newcastle lost 2 consecutive games at Ellen Road was back in 1971 and 1972. And overall, Newcastle have been dominating the games in the Premier League. 11 wins versus 7 defeats and another 7 draws. The bad thing is that in the past 3 games, Leeds have won 7 points against Newcastle, which is more than they have done in their previous 9 games. Also, Leeds seem to be doing really well against teams in the bottom half of the table. In their last 13 games against the bottom 5, they have 10 wins. 2 of the worst defenses in the league go against each other. Leeds have conceded 39 and Newcastle have conceded 42, with only Norwich conceding more than these 2. So the game promises a lot of goals. Finally, I really hope Newcastle are able to win it for our friend Chris, who sadly passed away last week. I really hope that they do it for him and he'll be watching from up there. Rest in peace, Chris.
Andre, thank you very much, mate. And that was a heartfelt message at the end again, which we all, wholeheartedly agree with. Newcastle, visit Ellen Road tomorrow. It's a 3 o'clock kickoff. All 2,690 away tickets are sold out. Injury list, well, Callum Wilson, Federico Fernandez and Isaac Hayden still remain unavailable. Matt Ritchie is still dealt with a knee issue. Manquillo is available after his suspension. And Jeff Hendrick and Dwight Gale were back in training, although whether that means they'll take any part in the game, who knows. Kieran Clark is also nearing a return. As for the home team, Leeds United, well, Tyler Roberts and Joe Geldhart will return from injury, but they've got an injury list longer than ours. Adam Forshaw, Junior Firpo, Patrick Bamford, Liam Cooper, Calvin Phillips, Jamie Shackleton, Charlie Cresswell, and Sam Greenwood are all missing tomorrow. But that didn't do them any harm last week when they managed to get a win at West Ham against all odds. Referee for tomorrow's game is Chris Kavanagh. This is his first game in charge of Newcastle this season, and on VAR is Kevin, not our friend. And definitely not our friend. And bringing in Toon Tipster now to give us the odds on the game. Good evening.
Evening, gentlemen. All right.
Hi, Joe.
Yeah.
I love the fact that you said there you talked about people not being friends and then brought me in. I appreciate that, Steve.
I don't write the script. I just deliver them.
Neither do I. People think it is scripted, but it's not. So, listen, really, really strange old week for lots and lots of reasons, and obviously made much more difficult by the tragic loss of our friend Chris. I'm just going to jump straight in with the prices, if that's all right. Acting like a clown this week just doesn't really seem that appropriate. So, as Steve's just said, Newcastle travel to Elland Road for what is no longer a relegation 6-pointer due to Leeds' recent decent form, leaving us now realistically needing to finish top of a 4-team mini-league at the foot of the Premiership. Newcastle are back to being second favourites at 11-4. The draw is 5-2, and you can get even money if you fancy Leeds. So again, no matter which way you think the result's going to go, there is money to be made tomorrow. Goals are fancied 4-6 if you fancy over 2.5 goals in the game, and both teams to score is 4-7. If you fancy the Mags, Newcastle 1-0, 16-1, 2-0, 22-1, and 2-1, 14-1. In comparison to that, 1-0 Leeds is 10-1, 2-0 Leeds is 11, and 2-1 Leeds is 17-2. If you think it'll be tighter than that and you fancy a draw, we've got 13-2 at 1-all, 12-1 at 2-all, and if you do fancy an absolute goal fest, you can have 40-1 for 3-all. Chris Wood's favourite to score for us against his old club at 15-8, followed by the usual lot led by Alan Saint-Maximin at 3-1. But just a note of caution, there's a raft of Leeds players that come in above our two. So I think the bookies are telling you which way they think this is going to go. If you fancy a red card in the match, just for something a little bit different, you can have 9-2 for that. In terms of the food bank, last week I said Chris Wood would score and Newcastle would win, and obviously neither of those two things happened. So I am going to stick with Chris Wood this week, and that'll give us around an extra 15 quid to throw into the pot. In terms of the Toon Tickle, I've literally just sat and done this there while the computer was loading up, so that just shows you how much thought actually goes into this. But what are you laughing at, Hasty? All away wins in the Premier League. I didn't think you'd be able to tell. All the away wins in the Premier League tomorrow, 125-1. More realistically, all of the 3 o'clock games tomorrow, if you fancy all homes, that comes in at 60-1. But interestingly, I added Southampton to win at home in the tea time fixture, and that changed to 633-1. They do have to beat Manchester City, so worth a couple of quid maybe. Anyway, gamble safe and rest in peace, Christopher. You'll be missed. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks as always, mate, for your work. And yes, as he said, bet safely, bet sensibly. Don't get too carried away. Okay, last 20 minutes. As you know, it's a shorter show tonight, and we've got to cram in a couple of favourites. So here we go. Without further ado, it's Two Lookalikes. Two look alike. There was one or two which I just couldn't use. One or two which were far too late because I had to load this up yesterday because I've had quite a busy week. So those that aren't on tonight, don't be disillusioned or disappointed. They will be on next week's show. Okay, this one was sent in by Peter Clennell. He said, Stu Penman with a Watford fan.
Oh, brave man.
Thanks, Peter.
I love the little sorry Stu.
I love it. I think it's the best one yet.
No, I have had this one before, but it is relevant because Rafa's now been sacked by Everton. When you get sacked and they take the company car back, yes. And I mean, there was that one with him with a barrel as well, but we've used that one before. So we'll get into some proper lookalikes now. Tom Dixon's been at it again. I really do not see the comparison between Mitch and Bob Carroll. Geez, I'm sorry. And it's not very often I'll tell people that there's no comparison. But that is definitely not a lookalike, Tom, unless you've had a major drink. The Steve Hasty one, on the other hand, is a spit and dabs, Tom. You've got it 100% right there.
Hey, oh wait. You know what? I even went for a drink with him after the match on Saturday, and he does that to us.
Steve, it's all done in the best possible taste, mate. Wayne Bennett, I love this one. Early lookalike for next Friday. It was early. You sent it last week. And there we go. Yeah. And of course we have any statue that it's got its arms out like that is going to get the comparison of Joe Linton. But yeah, I'll give you that one, mate. It was a good one. This one from 100% Mag. So guys, here's yet another tune lookalike for you all. Richard O'Brien, the host of the Crystal Maze, and Mike Dean.
Both a pair of drama queens. Jesus.
Both a pair of drama queens. This one was from Lee Japp. Lookalike Benny Hill and Mitch.
That's damn good, that one. I like that one.
It was good, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the little ball bloke now off Benny Hill to be compared to me. It's inevitable. 100% Mags went for Richard O'Brien and Keith Patterson as well.
He probably enjoyed that one as well.
Again, both drama queens.
Exactly. I can't remember who sent us this, but David Ginola and Len White. I think this was Jimmy Dixon, I think, on Facebook.
Right.
There's a little, if you take David's head, put your hand over his forehead, lads.
Yeah. The shape of the face and the eyes, lower down on the forehead. Yep, definitely.
And it's the face that he's pulling. It's the face that he's pulling there. Definitely. But yeah, that was pretty good, that, mate. Not going to win this week, but it was pretty good. Andrew Bygate sent us this one. Sorry, I couldn't get a really good image of this. But he had Joe at the bottom there. It's some guy on YouTube who just looks like Joe. And the other one was supposed to be showing Longstaff at the top. Andrew, I couldn't get any bigger on the system, unfortunately, but I did show it. So there we go. This was brilliant from Ugly Camel. Mitch in his rockabilly days.
Fantastic.
It's pretty good, isn't it? He's got a bit more hair. He's got a little bit more hair. This one was from Jimmy Moore, John Travolta, and me. Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take it. He's a little bit older. Looks a bit older, but yeah, I'll take it. The bald head. Gibbo's getting some stick these days. Fred, is it Dibner or whatever he was called? And
Yes.
Gibbo.
Fred Dibner.
Get Gibbo on like some train or something, which I thought was that was okay. This one was good from Critical Thinking. Thomas and the Breaking Bad guy.
Now that is good.
That is good.
That is. Well,
you'll not get that out of your head now. Whenever you see Thomas Tuchel, you'll have the music of Breaking Bad coming in. And this one was great from Dazalad. Lookalike bloke of Undateables and Alan Brazil. You can see it. You can see it. That wasn't the winner, though. We've got two more to go. This one, Mike Ashley. Definitely Mike Ashley, isn't it? It's quite good, that. Graham, you came in at number 2. And he's not here to see it, but he deserves to win it. God bless you, Chris. And I missed this last week, and he helped me to account last Friday for missing it. Chris A sent this one in. So Chris, wherever you are, God bless you, son. You took part in all of the stupidity and all the games that we've had on this show. But there we go. He's put that one in. Borough Mag, and Chris Wood's agent. So there you are, Toon Tipster. He was still thinking of you even last Friday. Fantastic.
I think he's a cheating sod.
Brilliant stuff, and it was only right that Chris here won this week. Well done, mate. As I say, wherever you are, keep them coming in. I've got quite a few lookalikes from this week that have got to go into next week. Always good. Always give us a laugh. Thanks very much. Now, because I'm going to Leeds tomorrow, I will be on slightly earlier. I'll be on 9:30 till 10:30 in the morning. I'm leaving at 10:30. I'm going in the car with Holly and her dad again. But after Mick I've got this tomorrow, and this will be great. Honestly, it's a fantastic interview. I recorded it last weekend. Me and the world's strongest man, Tom Stoltman, gave us an hour of his time to talk about his career, how on earth he lifts those ridiculous weights, and how it feels to be world's strongest man. So that is tomorrow night, tea time, after the disappointment of the match. You can tune in to that particular interview. Well worth a watch. And Sunday, Andy McNabb. I caught up with Andy McNabb a little bit earlier this month. Another interview going out on Sunday. So you get a double barrel of something completely different. So well worth tuning in. Okay, as you know, Q-Tech run their competition, the monthly competition, where there's a couple of match tickets up for grabs this time. I think it was for the Brighton game, the tickets. So the first clue was this last week. And the second clue, which is this week's clue, is this: 1931 to 1934, and a picture of St. James's Park. So write your answers down to those two particular pictures. Keep them safe somewhere, and we will come back to that next week with your third clue. Good luck with that. Okay, we've got about 15 minutes left, so let's have a chat about the game. Tomorrow, Stephen, it's not a 6-pointer, as Joe quite rightly pointed out in his little Toon Tipster section there. It's probably more important than that. We've got to win. We've got to get 3 points. We've got to narrow the gap between us and Leeds. We've got to try and drag them back into it. And there's some big games coming up between the rivals around us. You know, we don't want to get stranded at the bottom. We need 3 points, Steve. Are we capable of getting them?
We definitely do need 3 points. Boy, oh boy, do we need a win. We need, we can't buy a win. We definitely need a win. The squad's capable if they can just drop this mindset that wants to go ahead, that's it. They can, they haven't got the ability to shut up shop. We saw that last week, mentally, they're hollow, they're weak, there's something lacking. And they drift into form. They drift into that mindset of can it lose, rather than just keeping their shape, keeping their style, keeping the momentum going, building on something. They seem to have lacked that ability. It's like what are they trying to build? Sandcastles, and somebody's coming along and stamping on them. It's so frustrating. I mean, last week you were crying out. I know we all talk about outlet ball and this type of thing, but it's game management. That's what they seem to be lacking. They're lacking that ability to manage themselves through the last 30, 35 minutes of a game without suddenly becoming like an 8-man defence or a 6-man defence, or the midfield who look as though, you know what, I don't need to do any running back here. I've done my little bit. I rely on somebody else. And meanwhile, those people behind them have lost all their shape and all that pattern. We talked about it in midweek. You look at the goal that we conceded, and people were complaining, saying that Dummett was out on his feet and, it was his fault. He should have cut the cross out. Well, you look at where Almiron was, who had only just come on, by the way. He'd only been on a few minutes. You look at his position. You then look at the position of Joe Linton and Shelvey. Then you look at the flat cross that come in, and you look at the flat-footedness of the central defenders, one of whom was completely out of sort and out of shape and out of position, marking himself. The other one who was confused by a run that came across him, who thought the fullback behind him was going to come, but he was occupied, unknown that there was somebody behind him in the corner. So it was a catalogue of mistakes, but they're all mistakes that can be rectified on the training pitch and rectified by communicating on the field. And that's what we seem to be lacking. We've always said we lack a mouth, we lack a gob, we lack somebody who can scream and shout but be listened to, as opposed to be shouted back at. You know, we lack a leader in that so much. It's all well and good standing at the back and pointing, and Lascelles was criticised because he was the man that was marking, and Lascelles been getting an awful lot of stick lately on social media. But collectively, the team has to take responsibility. It's as simple as that. And I think if there was a criticism of Eddie Howe, it was the timing of the substitutes, the people that he brought on, and where he put them. That was the criticism for me. And when he brought them on, it was as though one of them came on because he thought, well, he can just fly up the wing and we can just kick the ball up to him. Well, Bloke cannot hold the ball up for toffee. You know, he's in Almiron, and he's just going to run into a blind alley. Maybe that's what he wanted for the last 10, 12 minutes, wanted to run into a blind alley. I don't know. But quite frankly, for me, it was the wrong substitution. And it was obvious from the 60th minute that basically ASM had done his bit. He had done it. He scored his goal, and that was his attitude, because his first half performance was shocking. Came out to start the second half. He was buoyant. He scored the goal, and then he went back into his shell again. He went into the, well, it's not my problem. Wood was isolated. All of these little things have got to be sorted out. Hopefully, they've been sorted out on the training pitch. And we get some sort of semblance of a team performance tomorrow.
Okay, what's your views, Joe? It's a big game. I mean, it's the closest we have to a derby, whilst Middlesbrough and Sunderland are otherwise engaged in other divisions.
Yeah, listen, and as I always do there to Mr. Hasty, I think he's absolutely bang on, Steve. I was absolutely appalled. And do you know what? Last week was, and I think I commented on the show, it was the first week that I actually thought, do you know what? I fancy us today. I think we've got a new centre forward. Trippier's going to come into play, and we're better than them. Don't forget, they've been on a woeful run of form. And it was almost as if I watched two different games. I thought first half, we had plenty of possession. We controlled the pace of the game. We had a couple of chances, particularly the one, Joe Linton sticking his leg out and hitting the bar. And you're just waiting and thinking, not only are we going to score, we're going to score again, and we're going to win the football match. And I agree with Steve. The Alan Saint-Maximin it was like two different individuals. First half, the people around us, the stadium as a whole were getting on his back. I think Jamal Lascelles in the air, he was courageous, he was strong, he was tremendous. On the floor, it looked like he'd never kicked a football before. And I just think there's something mentally going seriously wrong with us. We got the lead, and all we're thinking is, go on then, go and get another one, and we'll absolutely wipe the floor with these. We'll end up scoring 3, 4 or 5. And we didn't. We sat back. And for the last 20 minutes of the football match, I was looking at my dad and I was looking at the lads I was with, and all we kept saying was, they're going to score. We sat back. And unfortunately, the only thing in our arsenal at the minute that we seem to be able to do is we bring Miggy Almiron on. And for what? I don't even think he touched the football, if I'm being brutally honest. So big problems. I have got the lad that I work with is a massive Leeds fan. And he's been saying that he's not looking forward to the game because of the way that they've been playing. And I said, honestly, John, you just want to watch Newcastle United, because if you think you've been bad, we're absolutely woeful. So all the hope that I had last week is gone. And I think we'll do well if we get a point. I just can't see us winning at all. And unfortunately, I don't know when we're going to win again. So, yeah, that's where I'm at.
Mitch,
Mike, Steve.
I've got to ask you about the lucky dice, Mitch. Have you got it with you?
Good question.
Because you're not doing another show tomorrow, you see.
That's right. Aye, yeah, good question.
You'll have to transfer it to next week. We'll do it next week.
Right, neighbours.
Give us your views.
Look, we talked about this a little bit on the news show on Wednesday night. One, that there's this feeling from certain members of the squad that then not so comfortable because Howe's not as touchy-feely as Bruce and isn't their friend. We'll get used to that because he's going to be less of your friend after the performance we put in. What game management in that last 30 minutes was just atrocious. Absolutely atrocious. And that's what cost it for me. We just went into our shell, reverted to type, and didn't control the game the way we did for the first 60. As you know, I drink regularly in Goodfellas. That's the home of the Dubai Whites. I've seen a lot of Leeds this season, a lot more than I would have liked to be fair. I watched the game against West Ham last week, and they lost 2 players in the first half to hamstring injuries. So an already depleted squad that had full-backs playing at centre-back, centre midfielders playing at full-back, strikers playing on the wing, but yet their energy and their running and their willingness to fight and battle and come back again. And I watched that game, and I was watching it with Steve Bennett, who's now back in Riyadh, and I watched it with Chelsea Rob, and I turned to the pair of them and said, we couldn't do that. I watched that game, and I watched them come back twice against West Ham, and I couldn't see us doing that. And that's the difference. And is that a mental thing? It's certainly not an ability thing. On paper, we have better players. There's no doubt about that. But they, as a collective group, are synergistically better than us. And they're able to put the fight in, and they'll fight for each other. And the will. One of the reasons one of the lads got hurt was because he dangled his leg into a challenge. To be honest with you, I reckon most players would have just not even taken on. But that seems to be the way that their mentality of their squad is. I've seen it in other games they play. What I have seen of them also, though, is an absolute ability from out of absolutely nowhere to be shite. and be absolutely awful for 20 minutes in a game and just go disappear.
Yeah.
You know, I've been in there while they were getting thumped. I forget who it was off. And you could sense once the second went in, the third was an inevitability. And then the fourth was a fait accompli. You know, you could see it coming. But we shouldn't be relying on hoping that the rubbish Leeds turns up tomorrow, not the energetic, positive Leeds that I watched against West Ham last week. You know, we should be better than that. We should be better than expecting that. Also, though, another random thing that we'll have, obviously, Wood has history at Leeds and this returning players thing. And I know a couple of the Leeds lads aren't looking forward to playing against Wood. They've got this, you know, he always scores against the kind of vibe that we seem to have hang around with as well with former strikers. But I think tonight's game, is it Watford and Norwich play tonight? Yeah. And I think the result of that game will determine tomorrow for me whether a point is good enough or would desperately need all 3. Yeah. And we're already in that situation where the results of the teams around were very much affect the weekend for us in terms of, well, was that a good point or was that 2 points thrown away?
Quick prediction, Steve.
I'm going to go for, what was it, Joe? 13-2, 1-1.
1-1. Joe?
2-0 Leeds.
2-0 Leeds. Mitch?
2-0 Newcastle.
I'm going 3-1 Leeds, like I did last night. Okay, we've got time to cram in. We've got to cram the adverts in at the end, so we know music at the end. I've recorded the adverts now, which takes a little bit of time away from me during the show. But Julie, I won't let you down. Here it is. Troll of the week was quite simple. It was this one from Lewis. I put a thing up to advertise me book. He said I would rather watch red and white paint dry. Thanks, Lewis, for at least being original. Okay, that's it. 6 o'clock. I've got to shoot. Have a good weekend, lads. Hope Newcastle United do better than I think they're going to do. We will see you all for the show next Friday, lads. Take care and have a good weekend.
Take care, everyone.
Hey, folks. Bye-bye.
Thanks to all our sponsors. Spider VPN for all your internet security. Google Spider VPN. They come up at the top of the Google search list. They are the boys to trust and will protect your computer from unwanted bugs. Skipsandbins.com, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website www.skipsandbins.com. Easy contract, free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks also to L&G Family Funeral Directors, 0191 389 7245, and to Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD hemp and cannabinoid specialists, www.thegohd.com. Thanks also to Arcot Interiors for all your kitchen necessities. You can find them at the bottom of Heaton Road, and Google Arcot Interiors. They come up at the top of the Google search list. Thanks also to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Walls and Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, NUFCmatters.com. Thanks also to jabsignature.co.uk for all of the flyers that they do for us. Thanks to Media Arts for all the video work. If you're a first-time visitor to the channel, please subscribe. Hit the Newcastle Legends logo in the bottom right-hand corner, and that's it. You can subscribe for free. We still do 7 shows a week, and they are all free. Hit the thumb up underneath the video to like it. Click share to your social media, and drop into the comments box to speak to like-minded Newcastle fans. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes and Spotify and other podcast providers. The show usually goes up 24 hours after the show. If you want to join the NUFC Matters cult and get a cup, a pen, a scarf, and your membership card and entry into the monthly draw, put your phone over this QR code and it will take you straight to the website. Failing that, go to nufcmatters.com and become a member. If you want to come and see Malcolm MacDonald pre-match or post-match, we are at the Dog and Parrot. It's kid-friendly and it goes great food and beer, and you can come and meet Malcolm in person before the match or after the match during the season. Make a donation to the food bank via nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk. The matchday bucket is operational 365 days of the year. If you want to follow us on social media, then go to NUFC Matters. We've got a Facebook group and we've got a Facebook page. And if you're into the true crime stuff that we do, then follow Steve Wraith's True Crime Interviews, and that is a Facebook group. My personal Twitter follow-on page is @Steve Wraith, and Instagram is Steve Wraith. Give me your follow on there too.